continuing through chapter 6, lesson 1. This is example 3. So example 3 is getting into what is starting to talk about composition of functions. These are just compositions of ordered pairs, and then we'll get into actual compositions of like functions as far as like what functions look like in example 1 and 2. So for this question, you will notice that it tells you to find f of g and g of x. That open circle is not multiplication. It specifically means a composition. So the other way that this can be written is f, or said also, is f of g of x. And then this can be written g of f of x. Is kind of a different way to think about it. So what this means, so this one specifically, is that I'm placing g values into my f values, and this would mean that I'm placing f values into my g value. So when I do these functions, where this information is coming from is I'm taking my f of g of x first. So I'm specifically looking at my x values in my g, and seeing what that is within the f value. So what that looks like, and to kind of write some of this out first. So all I am doing right this second is I'm taking my x values from my g function and plugging them in, and then I will explain how we are going to solve this. So for this, g of 7, what I'm looking at when I plug in g of 7, I get that f is equal to 0. So I'm really then looking at my y value. From here, the other thing that you are going to state now is what is your y value of your f function when x is 0. So I'm going to say that again. So I originally got this first 7 from right here. The 0 right here comes from right here. So both looking at the g function. Now I'm specifically saying, looking at my f function, so this top row, if I have f of 0, what is the ordered pair that corresponds to that? So you see 0 right here, and the number that corresponds to that is -1. So that's what you are going and looking through. So when I look at g of -1, I get f of 7. So now I'm going and looking at my f row, and when I plug in 7, or look at 7, I get that it's equal to 7. Then when I look at g of 4, I get 9. When I go and look at 9 in this row, I were to get 4. When I look at 8 in this row, I get 2. And then when I look at 2 in my f function, I get 6. So that is f of g. So I'm going to go through and do the same thing for g of x because it asked me to do both. So again, I'm going to erase all of this stuff so we can start over. So just writing this out. So I'm now looking, my F values are now getting plugged into my G values. So I'm now looking at my X values from right here, which is where the numbers are coming from, that I am getting ready to write. Okay, so from here, I'm kind of doing the same thing. So whenever I write F of 2, I would get 6. So now I'm looking, where is G of 6? So if I look at my G row, there's nothing that has a 6 in it. So I would then write that it is undefined since there's nothing listed. So my next one, I'm looking at F of 9. When I look at that, I would have a 4. Then I'm looking at the 4 in my G column. The number that corresponds to the 4 is 9. Then I'm looking at G of F of 7. So F of 7 right here is 7. Now I'm looking at G of 7, specifically at the X value. So when I look at the X value, the corresponding Y value is 0. And then for the very last one, when I look at, I wrote this one wrong, so sorry. This should be a 0. So when I look at my 0 value, I would have my Y value is -1. When I look at -1 here, the corresponding value is 7. So where your answer comes from this is essentially writing out these starting points and then the corresponding Y value that you found that goes with them. So I would say for F of G, I now have 7, -1. I have -1, 7. I have 4, 4. And then I have 8, 6. Then for my G of F function, because this top one is undefined, I'm actually not listing this ordered pair at all. So I would start here. So again, these were X values, and these are corresponding Y values that are going to end up going together. So I would have 9, 9, 7, 0, and then 0, 7. So this is your answer to this question. So if you find a different way to like show your work or to kind of think through it, this is kind of the end goal. This is the in-between step of, I looked at G of F or G of X. This is then like G of 7 is equal to 0. So I kind of just replaced that in, and now I'm looking at what is F of 0 and then writing the corresponding numbers. So this is kind of the in-between step to actually get to your answer that's over here.